Thanksgiving is a cherished holiday rooted in gratitude and togetherness, celebrated with warmth as the golden hues of autumn linger. Families and friends gather to share hearty meals, creating an atmosphere filled with laughter, the aroma of roasted turkey, and the comforting spices of pumpkin pie. It's a time to reflect on blessings, reconnect with loved ones, and honour traditions, both old and new. Whether it's a grand feast or a quiet moment of thanks, Thanksgiving invites everyone to pause, appreciate life's simple joys, and savour the spirit of giving and togetherness. During the holiday in 1960, the memories made that weekend would live on in the hearts of loved ones, as tragedy would befall a young couple in a case which would become one of the most infamous in Oregon. Beverly Ann Allan was born on the 16th of May 1941 in Port Townsend, Jefferson County, Washington, to Robert Allan Sr. and Helen Allan. Beverly, who was a sophomore at Washington State University, spent a part of Thanksgiving weekend of 1960 at her parents' home in Port Townsend. After dinner on the 26th of November 1960, the 19-year-old then drove to Portland, Oregon, to visit her boyfriend, 19-year-old Larry Ralph Peyton, a pre-dental sophomore at Portland State College located in Oregon. According to the Daily News, Beverly and Larry met in the summer of 1960 at Crater Lake National Park, located in southern Oregon, where the pair both worked, and furthermore, Larry Peyton's father, Ralph, operated a motor lodge there. Newspaper reports suggested that the couple's relationship was blossoming, and that Larry and Beverly had plans on getting married. That November afternoon, the Peytons welcomed Beverly into their home at 6530 Southwest Griffin Drive, with Beverly gladly joining them in sharing their Thanksgiving feast. After dinner, Larry and Beverly made plans to go shopping at the Lloyd Centre and spend time at an amusement centre. The couple departed for the evening at approximately 9:30 p.m. Larry's parents, Ralph and Catherine, grew concerned when the couple failed to return by daybreak. With no sign of either Larry or Beverly, the Peytons subsequently reported both 19-year-olds as missing to the authorities. On the drizzly Sunday afternoon of November 27th, Deputy Sheriff Allan Gadbury, along with a partner, were partaking in routine checks and searches in the West Hills and Forest Park areas of Portland, which overlooks the Willamette River. Winding up a road, specifically Northwest 53D, Gadbury noticed something peculiar. He saw a bright blue Ford coupe with a handleless door and the name Gabriel painted on one side of the vehicle. At first, Gadbury found the car rather amusing. However, upon closer inspection, his heart dropped as a feeling of dread washed over him. A pool of blood lay outside of the vehicle, with a damaged fender stuck into some earth on an embankment. Chillingly, a knife was, quote, balancing precariously on the hood of the coupe. Furthermore, there was a clearly identifiable bullet hole in the windshield. However, it had been shot from inside the car. More blood was found within the car, and inside, on top of a lady's black and white coat, lay the lifeless body of a young man who had been stabbed approximately 9 times in the back and 13 times in his chest. The brutality of the scene shocked Gadbury and his colleague, who immediately hopped onto their radios to notify the police of their discovery. The investigation swiftly began, with police springing into action to find as many clues as possible. However, their efforts were partially marred by the rain, which had become torrential and may have potentially washed away evidence. A penknife was retrieved from the ground nearby, as well as a broken necklace and a pair of ladies' spectacles, which noticeably had one crushed lens. With the evidence they had, investigators were able to determine that the young man was Larry Peyton. Upon breaking the news to his family, they replied to police, bewildered, wondering also what had happened to Beverly Allan, who was nowhere to be seen. It was unknown why Larry had driven up to this specific area. However, word circulated that it was a popular lover's lane. It was determined that the blade used to inflict the wounds upon Larry was a 4-inch knife, and not the pocket knife found at the scene, which belonged to the deceased. The post-mortem concluded that Larry had suffered a fractured skull, and mud on his clothing suggested that at some point during the fatal attack, he had been outside of the vehicle. Investigators believed it was unlikely that the crime was carried out by a single perpetrator due to the use of multiple weapons. FBI agents aided in the investigation by searching the area and gathering evidence from the crime scene. Beverly was still missing, but her purse, which contained $11, was left in the car. Her coat was discovered underneath Larry's body. A fragment of a fingernail was also found inside the vehicle. Blood evidence was detected both within the car and outside, though no gun was recovered. The car keys were, however, located in nearby brush. Bloodhounds aided in the search for Beverly, with more personnel called in to help in the search. Rumours began to circulate that Beverly had been kidnapped and was possibly being held hostage somewhere. However, rumours were all they were. Robert Allan Sr. offered a $1,000 reward for anyone who had information regarding his daughter's whereabouts. 40 to 60 colleagues of Robert's at a paper manufacturing plant helped in the search for Beverly, and due to the sheer amount of volunteers scouring the wilderness, the deer hunting season was called off. At a restaurant in Eugene, approximately 100 miles south of Portland, a customer discovered a message scrawled in lipstick on the bathroom mirror that read, quote, "I am being held in a brown Ford. Help me." A witness claimed to have seen a woman resembling Beverly at the establishment, accompanied by a man. However, the police later discounted this account, as the witness, despite providing a detailed description of the woman, was unable to recall any notable details about the man. 44 days after she was last seen alive, on the 9th of January 1961, the body of Beverly Allan was found in a ravine on the Sunset Highway, around 30 miles west of Portland. Beverly's body was discovered lying face down, partially nude, wearing only dark grey stockings. Nearby, her shoe, ski sweater, and blouse were scattered on the ground. Her hands had been tied with green nylon cord. Close to her body, a plastic sheet stained with what appeared to be blood was found. An autopsy revealed that she had been strangled, likely with a rope, and her time of death was estimated to be between 3 a.m. and 7 a.m. on November 27th. Evidence indicated she had been sexually assaulted before her death. Additionally, the fragment of fingernail recovered from Larry's car matched one of Beverly's nails. In the weeks that followed, detectives sifted through a seemingly endless list of potential suspects. Police questioned the owners of 2 abandoned cars found near where Beverly's body was discovered. One vehicle belonged to a US Navy sailor stationed in Astoria, while the other was owned by a young man from Banks, who claimed he had left it stuck in the mud. Investigators theorized that Larry and Beverly were ambushed by at least 2 attackers. Edward Wayne Edwards, a fugitive and known serial killer with ties to Portland, was initially suspected, but later cleared when it was confirmed he was not in the area at the time of the murders. Lead investigator Errol Sun reported that 2,292 individuals were interviewed during the case, with 453 suspects identified. Of these, only 47 were conclusively ruled out. The investigation and search efforts ultimately cost approximately $250,000. Journalist Phil Stanford suggested that Edward Wayne Edwards, the convicted criminal once considered a suspect in the case, could have been responsible for the murders. He pointed to a 1980 double murder in Wisconsin, which he described as nearly identical to the Peyton Allan killings as evidence. When questioned initially, Edwards had a bullet wound in his arm, but in correspondence with Stafford, Edwards denied involvement in the murders and explained that the injury occurred when his girlfriend shot him during a dispute. DNA testing also ruled him out as a suspect. In October 1966, lead investigator Errol's son received a letter from a woman named Veronica Nikki Essex, claiming to have critical information about the murders. Essex revealed details that only someone connected to the crime could know, including the presence of a large house party near the Forest Park crime scene on the night of the attack and the discovery of a knife left on the hood of Larry Peyton's car. She implicated Edward Jurgensen, a 36-year-old married father of 5 who owned a garage, and his younger brother, Carl, a 27-year-old former boxer and shoe salesman. Both brothers were said to have attended the party that night. When questioned, their mother adamantly denied their involvement. On August 13, 1968, a grand jury indicted Edward and Carl Jurgensen, along with a third suspect, 28-year-old Robert Gordon Brom, for the murders. Brom, a Salem resident, had a criminal history, including a 1962 conviction for assaulting an elderly grocer with a firearm, and was on parole at the time of the killings. Edward was arrested during the night in his home, while Carl was taken into custody at his job at a shoe store. All 3 men denied the accusations and entered pleas of not guilty to the murder charges. The trials for the murders began in early November 1968, starting with the Jurgensen brothers. Testimony revealed that Edward and Carl Jurgensen, along with Robert Brom, had attended a party on the night of the murders. Nikki Essex, the prosecution's key witness, testified that the trio encountered Larry Peyton and Beverly Allan while returning from a beer run and invited them to the party. Larry and Beverly agreed and followed in their car. During the drive, a race ensued between the vehicles, resulting in Larry forcing Brom's car into a curb, causing damage. Brom returned to the party, secured another vehicle, and set out with Nikki Essex, Edward Jurgensen, and Carl Jurgensen as passengers. Essex claimed that Brom soon located Larry's car and pursued it down a dead-end road in Forest Park. According to her, the men confronted Larry and Beverly while she fled on foot to the main road, where she heard a, quote, loud crack that sounded like a gunshot. Shortly after, Brom, the Jurgensen brothers, and Beverly returned to the main road, picked up Essex, and drove her home. Essex's testimony became a focal point of the trial, with Edward's attorney Charles Paulson questioning its reliability, citing her use of hypnosis and sodium amytal treatments to recover memories of that night. In late November 1968, Edward Jurgensen was found guilty of first-degree murder in Beverly Allan's death and second-degree murder in Larry Peyton's. He received a life sentence plus 25 years. Over the course of his trial, 90 witnesses testified, including his brother Carl, who insisted he was not involved. Carl's trial concluded on December 5th, 1968, with his acquittal on first-degree murder charges. In early 1969, Robert Brom was convicted of first-degree murder in Larry's death and sentenced to life in prison plus 25 years. In spring 1972, Edward Jurgensen and Robert Brom appealed their convictions, arguing that key witness Nikki Essex was psychologically unstable and had not been properly evaluated before testifying, especially given her use of hypnosis and sodium amytal. The Oregon Supreme Court denied their appeal. Brom's parole was further denied in December of 1972. In 1975, Robert Brom filed a second appeal, claiming ineffective legal representation and presenting a witness who claimed to have seen Beverly Allan alive in December 1960, over a month after the prosecution's timeline. Edward Jurgensen was released on parole after 3 years, and Brom was paroled after serving 7 years. Both filed for exoneration in 1976. Journalist Phil Stanford stated, quote, "The most sensational double murder, and they let him out on parole after 3 years. Nobody thought they did it. The motive behind the double murder remains a mystery." Despite appeals and claims of wrongful conviction, the case remains unresolved in some aspects, particularly regarding the true motivations behind the killings. The mystery, sensational trials, and doubts about the fairness of the convictions still echo in the minds of Oregonians, keeping the case a part of the state's dark criminal history. Larry Peyton was buried at Wilhelm's Portland Memorial Mausoleum in Portland, Oregon, and Beverly Allan was buried in Laurel Grove Cemetery in Port Townsend, Washington. Though their lives were tragically cut short, their memories endure in the hearts of those who knew and loved them.